The Banbury Run, one of the largest UK vintage motorcycle events. Now, it's not one of the events you'd normally find me at, to be absolutely honest, but I couldn't resist the opportunity of poking around in some of this old machinery. Now, one of the event organisers is Ian Young, very, very busy man today, but I'm going to go and try and ferret him out just to find out a little bit more information. There's stacks of people here, there's some amazing machinery. What on earth is going on?
This is the premier event for old motorcycles. This is the Ascot, the Henley of the old motorcycle movement. People coming from all over England and further afield to take part in this unique event, the largest single vintage motorcycle event in the world.
What's the difference between veteran and vintage? What's the classification?
To qualify as a pioneer machine, which is the veteran terminology, the machine has got to be registered before January 1950. Conversely, the vintage classification is any machine up to 31st of December 1931. So there you are, you've got your vintage and your veteran classes, both well represented here today.
Ron, this is a very unusual looking machine. I certainly haven't seen one before. What type of machine is it?
Well, these were the nero-car designed by Carl Nero-Archer.
What CC is this?
This is the 350cc Blackburn engine one, side valve. They have peculiar steering. The handlebars, when you turn the handlebars, the front wheel turns 1/3 more than the handlebars.
How long have you owned the machine?
I've owned this one, that one, which is the one I ride, I've owned since I was a teenager.
Oh my
And
God.
I did my courting on it.
Wow.
That's why I put electric lights on that one.
For evening rides
yes,
out there,
because it was too much trouble getting the calcium carbide for the carbide lights. 3-speed gearbox made by Sturmey Archer. 1 gear back, forward, 2nd gear, top gear down there. As I say, you've got to be very careful with your hand on the spark plug.
Give you quite a shock when you go into top gear then.
Particularly if you've got gloves on and it's wet, because it transfers the current beautifully up your arm.
Peter, this looks a rather interesting piece of machinery. How long have you had it?
About 20 years. I've built it up out of bits. It's quite an unusual machine, the McAvoy. It's one of the things that was like a Brough Superior, but was actually made by one of the lesser-known firms in Derby.
What size engine is it?
Well, it's supposed to be 1,000 cc's, but this one's turned out a little bigger, so it's about 1,200.
So you've done quite a bit of modification on it, have you?
No, it's just the bits I found when I put them together. That's how it turned out.
Oh, right. And, do you use this bike regularly?
Once a year on the Banbury.
Oh, right. Run me through it. What is it? It looks fantastic.
It's a 1924 Triumph Model SD. The SD means spring drive, which is on the end of the gearbox. So when you take off with the engine, it doesn't give you a sharp tug when you go away. It just goes away and nice and smoothly. It's a 550 side valve, a 3-speed gearbox.
Who would have actually used this bike?
Being a deluxe version with all the nickel plating, and it was always a little bit more expensive. It's £69 in 1924, and it was used mainly by the higher-ups, by the doctors, the people that had to get around.
I'm in an incredible position today. I've been lent a machine to take part in this event, and this is it. It's an Henley. It's owned by a very, very charming gentleman called Guy Ashington, 92 years of age, who only recently stopped riding. He's going to lend me this for the event, and I hooked up with him for a few tips about the bike yesterday. Now, Guy, it's a wonderful old machine. How long have you owned this machine?
Well, I bought it for £3 in 1937. when it was 13 years old and 13th hand.
I'm not familiar with the make. What's the origins of Henley?
The origin of the Henley, as far as I know, that it was one of dozens and dozens, possibly hundreds, of little back street engineering firms. And they all wanted to get into the motorcycle business. So what they did, they made a petrol tank and a frame. And having done that, then they bought in from all the people who made them forks, gearboxes, engines, magnetos, and so forth, you see, and built them all into the frame and called it a Buggins or whatever they care to write on the petrol tank.
Why have you been doing it all these years? What aspect of the motorcycling is it that really gives you the buzz?
Well, I think it gave me the freedom of travel from a confined office life, for one thing.
Yeah.
A sort of means of transport which appeals to somebody with an adventurous streak in their nature. I think that's about what it really is.
You've seen the development of motorcycles over the years.
Yeah.
What do you think of the new machinery on the roads at the moment?
Well, I think it's absolutely marvellous. I really do, all of them.
Have you ever ridden a new bike?
No, not a really late one. No, I haven't. I think the most modern bike I ever rode was my last big machine, was my 1974 Square 4 Aerial.
Guy, I've been looking at the bike, but I can't find a kickstart anywhere.
No, it's because it was the little firm's racing model.
Ah, so how do I start it?
They never had one.
So how do I actually start the bike then?
You haven't started it ever.
Not yet.
You put it into bottom gear, you put the lever far up as it'll go, put it back until you feel compression.
Right.
Draw the clutch out, run and bump your bottom on the saddle and drop the clutch at the same moment and it'll start.
So it's a bump start then?
Yeah.
Well, that makes a change from my own electric start, that's definitely for sure. Now, to do this event on your own would be really quite foolish. I'm very fortunate to have Alison here, a bit of guidance. Hello, Alison.
Hello, Rob.
Have you done the Banbury event before? Am I in good hands?
Certainly in good hands. I've done it before, but not on this Scott.
So how long have you actually owned the Scott then?
I've had this bike a year. It belonged to my father, and it's a water-cooled, two-stroke, 1928 Flying Squirrel.
Flying Squirrel, well, it's in fantastic condition. I see you're all equipped with the map.
Yes.
So you've got a vague idea where we're going.
Hope to be able to read it as we go along.
Excellent. Well, I shall be hot on your heels, and I shall get mounted on my bike now.
Excellent.
As Alison made a clean getaway, I got left behind and had to make a dash for it. Leaving the start line, I became aware of the nostalgia of this event. You're immediately taken back to a past era, perhaps as some would say, the heyday of motorcycling. I eventually caught up with Alison at the famous Banbury Cross, and we both headed off into the Oxfordshire countryside.
Well,
The Scott
looks like
the Scott Brigade are breaking down, but not me.
a few people have hit the grade here, haven't they? It's like the Formula 1 Grand Prix, half the field's out before you get going.
So how are you finding riding the bike?
I'm absolutely enjoying it, I have to say. It's incredible. You really get a taste of what it was in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, the brakes are particularly naff, the seating is particularly naff, the engine rattles, but it's really, really enjoyable.
You feel it, you smell it, you hear it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's just a whole experience.
It is,
you have
isn't
to
it?
really live it, don't
Yeah.
you? Right, where are we on the map then?
Right, well, we're here,
Yeah.
and we've got to go right next.
Okay, that's on the A361, isn't it?
That's right, yep.
All right,
and
great.
through the town centre. Okay.
Lead the way.